Now I would like to welcome our guest speaker, Mr. Joseph Lapin. He's an author, a poet, and a Clinton alumni grad of 2003.
Hello, everybody. Let's see if I can get this thing right. All right. Thank you so much for having me here tonight. Thank you, Mr. Hastings. It's always a pleasure to see you and Carmen, wherever you are, Carmen. Good to see you. I want to take a brief moment and just thank some people that, to me, are tremendous. And those are the teachers at Clinton High School and even Clinton Middle School and in Clinton overall. Mr. Ngano, Mr. Gage, Mrs. Sheehan, Mr. Gannon. Mr. Wynn, Mr. Williams, and, Mr. Grady. When I think about those teachers, it's very clear to me, and I hope it's clear to all of you in front of me, that I wouldn't be who I am today without them. So, it's really strange to be here, honestly, and walk around these halls because I remember sitting right there. And it's really weird. I'm going to be honest with you. You think it's weird sitting there? Wait till you're standing here. And I just never thought that I would be where I am in my life. And I never thought I'd be in San Diego. I never thought that I would have lived a year in Detroit at the worst part of the recession. I never thought that I would be married to the same woman I've been with since I was 19 years old. I never thought that I would have a dog that came from the Detroit Metro Pound. These are all really weird things that are going to happen to you in your life. And I was starting to think about it. If I could go back and talk to the 17-year-old version of myself sitting in that chair, what would I say? And then I even got a little stranger, and I said, well, what if I could go back in time and meet my 17-year-old version of myself? What would I say? So here are 17 things that I would say to my 17-year-old self. Number 1, never read the comments. When I first started as a journalist in Los Angeles, I was just trying to write whatever I could, just scrape by. Whatever assignment came my way, I took it on. And one day I wrote this piece called 10 Jazz Albums to Hear Before You Die. And I wrote it for the OC Weekly. To my utter surprise, the piece went crazy viral. I couldn't believe how many people were sharing it, how many people were tweeting it. Couldn't believe how many people were reaching out to me on Twitter. Then it went to the LA Weekly. Then it went to the Village Voice in New York City. Then the Dallas Observer. I was literally viral. But then I started to read the comments. And those comments are mean. There are trolls out there that want to make you upset. They want to say the worst possible things. In fact, there was an editor at a major New York City publication that said I write like a 17-year-old boy who knows nothing about jazz. I was heartbroken. I thought my career was over. But then I realized that, there are a lot of people that liked it. It was read countless of times. It was published all over the country. Somebody liked it. So when you hear those people telling you suck, just remember that you're doing something that you care about. So don't ever read the comments. Number 2, if you ever have a motorboat, bring a paddle. So one of my really close friends and another one of my really close friends, he actually had a boat in college. And he would drive it around with us on it around, I think it's Mossy Pond or Coach Lace. I can't remember which one it was. And we drove around all summer listening to country music, which I hated at the time. And I just remember feeling like I was on top of the world, right? Yeah, boat, cool guy. And then one day we're out on the boat in the middle of the lake and there's an engine problem. And the boat gets stuck and we're like, oh, what are we gonna do? We're in the middle of the pond or the lake or whatever it is. So there's no paddle. So we all three of us, we get over the side of it and start going like this with our hands until we got to the shore, which took forever. And now that guy who owns that boat is just such a great guy. He's super successful. He drives a bigger boat in a much bigger lake, but he always has a backup plan. Don't put whatever you want on social media. I know it might seem cool to let everybody know you're at this raging party, but remember, everybody sees it. Number 4, the old timers will close. Honestly, this is one of the most tragic things I've heard in a long time. And I'm not kidding. I mean, my grandparents had their wakes there. I go there almost every time I came home with my 2 buddies, and we catch up on what life was like. And to find out that the old timers closed, it was honestly heartbreaking because I loved that place so much. So my advice to 17-year-old Joe, treasure the places of your community because they'll be gone. Number 5, life is fragile. You might think that life is never going to end. You might think that you're on top of the world. You might feel invincible at times. But let me tell you, 17-year-old Joe, you're going to see people overdose. You're going to see suicides. You're going to see violence. You're going to see some hard, tragic stuff out there. But what you must do is learn from it, take something from it, and just recognize how unbelievable it is for you to be alive in this moment. Number 6, women in Florida do not wear cowboy hats on the beach. I went to Stetson University right after graduation, and I honestly thought that all the women would be wearing cowboy hats on the beach, and it's a lie. I don't know why I was thinking that. So just, Joe, set yourself up the right way. Number 7, getting fired is the best thing that will ever happen to you. I was working in Los Angeles at a communications firm, and I was let go for reasons that I didn't particularly think were fair, but, whatever. And that woman, she said to me, she said, "Joe, you have no future in communications." Well, since I was fired, I went on to write for the Los Angeles Times. I went on to write for the LA Weekly. And now I help run the creative and communication strategies for some of the, some great universities in this country. So thank you for firing me. 8, failure is necessary. I went to graduate school, and I was just telling Ian about this. I went to graduate school at Florida International, and I got to go to Miami and live there on scholarship for 3 years, and it was pretty cool. And I went there to write a novel. It was a Master of Fine Arts program. They give you scholarship. They allow you to teach there, and you get to produce a book. Well, I never thought that I would produce a book. And so I'm graduating, and the book's going well, and I'm 25 years old. I'm one of the youngest people to graduate from the program, and I'm feeling good. I'm feeling that this book is going to take me and make me famous, and I'm just on top of the world. In fact, I go and I meet literary agents and editors in New York City. I'm sitting in Madison Avenue, and I'm in this office of one of the most powerful agents in the city, and I'm looking out over the skyline at 25 years old, and I'm saying, I made it. But then the rejection started coming in. I got about 100 different rejections, and it was hard. I remember laying on the ground of my apartment, my wife trying to console me and just feeling like my life was over, that I failed. But what I realized is that in the moments of failure, that's when you really see how to change, how to get better. So 5.5 years later, I'm finishing my second novel, and I'm hoping this is going to be the one. You got to fail sometimes to get better. Number 9, you're going to love to dance, 17-year-old Joe. I never realized how much fun parties could be if everyone just cleared out the tables and had a little bit more fun. Number 10, I never realized that lamb was actually baby sheeps. So, 17-year-old Joe, you're going to eat a lot of lamb and you're going to regret it. So, start now. But you're also going to love sushi and Indian food. Start eating more of that. 11, learn to let go. Sometimes rock bottom is the best thing. Now, this was, I think, one of the most important lessons I've ever learned. When I first moved to California, I was working at a rehab center for drug and alcohol addicts. And I was teaching creative writing, and I was also a mentor. And those drug and alcohol addicts were 18 to 25. So the age group you all are moving into. And what I learned was how fragile the mind was, how difficult it is to help someone. And that when someone actually needs help, there's nothing you can do about it. They have to want the help. And one day, we watched a kid who was a month sober from a heroin addiction. And he walked out into LA on his own to get high. And all of the therapists, the counselors, they looked at him and watched him go, and they did nothing because they knew they could do nothing. And sometimes you have to let people go. You have to let people hit rock bottom because only from the bottom do you see the truth. Number 12, meditate, practice mindfulness. Number 13, outside of the Northeast, everyone is going to think you're really loud and mean. It was really shocking to me, honestly. I went outside and started meeting people in California and Florida, and they're like, chill out, bro. I'm like, what's wrong? I'm just excited. So, 17-year-old Joe, chill out a little bit. Learn financial literacy. Listen, the loans, they're going to try to screw you. Learn about compounding interest. Learn how to budget. Learn what you're getting into. 15, invest in yourself. It's so important to invest in your mind, to read wildly, to learn wildly, to ask questions, to grow. It's so important to invest your time and money in here, and less in chemicals and less in distractions, because you only get one of these. Number 16, find a want. One thing that I've learned that is sort of the basis of all storytelling is that every character in every novel, in every movie, in every film, there's one fundamental principle, unless it's some postmodern artsy thing that is not as fun. Every character has to have a want. Even it's as simple as a glass of water. A character has to have a want, and something needs to get in the way of that want. That is the nature of conflict. And when you have conflict, that main character grows. Find what you want, struggle for it, learn who you are. And if your want changes, that's okay. And number 17, this is the last one. You're good enough. I can't tell you how many times that I felt in my life that I wasn't good enough. That there was people who had better SAT scores. That there were people who went to more fancy colleges. That there were people who had more money and could go and to travel the world and learn from the fanciest education in the world. Well, I didn't have all of that, but I had a great community. An unbelievable community that I didn't realize how great it was until I left. And I encourage you, when people doubt you, you take that doubt and you put it into a little ball and you put it on your shoulder as a patch. And you wear that the same way Tom Brady wears his 6th-round draft pick card. You wear that Clinton badge the same way Michael Jordan did when he got kicked out of his high school basketball team. You wear that proud because you are good enough. And once you recognize that, nobody will see you coming. Thank you so much.